Today, we're diving into Brené Brown's Daring Greatly. It's a book that's truly changed the conversation around courage and how we connect with each other. So let's just jump right in. So, where does that incredible title even come from? Well, it's from this really powerful speech given way back in 1910 by Theodore Roosevelt. He talks about the man in the arena, the one who's actually in the fight, covered in dust and sweat, not the person just watching from the sidelines. For Brené Brown, this wasn't just a cool metaphor. It was the perfect picture of what all her research was pointing to. Okay, so what does this arena look like in our lives today? It's obviously not a Roman Colosseum. For Brené Brown, stepping into the arena just means choosing courage over comfort. And that choice, well, it all comes down to one really powerful and, let's be honest, often terrifying human feeling. And that feeling is vulnerability. Brown defines it pretty simply. It's uncertainty, risk, and emotional exposure. It's that feeling you get right before you're about to do something brave. So instead of being a weakness we need to avoid, she argues it's actually the core of every meaningful human experience we have. And get this, the funny part is that Brené Brown, the researcher herself, hated this idea at first. She literally told her therapist she thought vulnerability was just suffering and she wanted no part of it. The expert on vulnerability was trying to find a way to engineer it out of her life. She even came up with this brilliant term for the aftermath, the vulnerability hangover. You know that feeling? After her first TED Talk went viral, she said she woke up in a cold sweat just filled with dread, thinking, oh my God, what have I done? It's that wave of regret and fear you feel right after you've put yourself out there. So if it can feel so awful, why on earth should we do it? Well, because pretty much everything we've been taught to believe about vulnerability is just plain wrong. So let's bust some of the biggest myths that keep us on the sidelines, totally afraid to even get near the arena. Myth number 1, and this is the big one. Vulnerability is weakness. But the truth her research uncovered, it's the absolute opposite. Vulnerability is actually our most accurate way to measure courage. It's the birthplace of joy, creativity, belonging, and love. All the good stuff. And we're not talking about some huge, dramatic confession here. Vulnerability is in the small stuff. It's saying, I love you first, not knowing if you'll hear it back. It's asking for help when you're stuck, or finally starting that business you've been dreaming about. It's all just everyday courage. Okay, next myth, this idea that you can just opt out. Sorry, I don't do vulnerability. But as Brown points out, to be alive is to be vulnerable. You literally can't escape it. The only choice you have is how you engage with it. Ignoring it doesn't make you safe, it actually makes you an easier target. And this next point is so important. Vulnerability is not just spilling all your secrets to anyone who will listen or oversharing on social media. In fact, that's often a way we avoid being truly vulnerable. Real vulnerability requires boundaries and, critically, it requires trust. You share your story with people who have earned the right to hear it. So how is that trust built? Brown shares this wonderful analogy from her daughter's teacher called the marble jar. Just picture that your friendship with someone is a big, empty glass jar. Every small act of kindness, every time they keep a secret or show up for you, that adds a marble to the jar. But when they betray that trust or gossip, marbles come out. You only share your deepest vulnerabilities with people whose marble jars are full. Okay, so if vulnerability is the key, what's the one thing that stops us cold? What is the real, powerful force that keeps us from ever even thinking about stepping into that arena? It's not the fear of failing. It's not what the critics might say. It's a single, universal emotion that is so painful we will do almost anything to avoid feeling it. It's shame. Shame is the true enemy of vulnerability. It's that little gremlin that whispers in your ear, you're not good enough, or who do you think you are to try that? And Brown's definition here is really specific. Shame is different from guilt. Guilt is, I did something bad. Shame is, I am bad. See the difference? It's that intensely painful belief that we're somehow flawed, and because of that flaw, we're not worthy of love or belonging. It's the fear of being disconnected. And absolutely everyone feels it. Brown's research found about 12 main areas where shame tends to show up for us. Things like our appearance, our work, our family, our health. And the thing about shame is that it thrives in secrecy and silence, making us think we're the only one in the world who feels this way. So, if shame is the enemy, how do we fight back? How do we actually find that courage to show up and be seen, even when we have no idea what's going to happen? Well, that brings us to the most important part. how to dare greatly in our own lives. First, you have to get really clear about whose opinions actually matter. The critics yelling from the cheap seats? They don't count. The people who matter are the ones who are down in the arena with you, the ones who love you not in spite of your imperfections, but because of them. And this changes everything because it totally redefines what winning looks like. Daring greatly isn't about winning or losing. It's not about being perfect. The victory is in having the courage to show up in the first place. So I'll leave you with this question to ask yourself. Think about your life, your work, your relationships. What is something that is so important to you, so meaningful, that it's worth doing even if you might fail? That right there, that's your arena. In the end, this is really the core message. What we know is important, sure, but who we are, how we choose to show up in our lives with courage and heart, that's what matters so much more. That's the whole point of daring greatly.